Welcome to the Live Like It's True podcast, where we look at some of the most interesting and surprising true stories of the Bible. I'm Shannon Popkin, inviting you to open your Bible with me to drink deeply of the story and to live like it's true. If you're here for one of our recent episodes, we're in the Judgy series. So we're looking at stories of judgment and mercy in the Bible and how to live like it's true that our God is a merciful judge. Well, we are welcoming Katy Morgan to Live Like It's True. Welcome, Katy.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here.
Thank you for joining me. And we're actually at the True Woman Conference.
Yes.
So we are in a hotel lobby right now. So if you hear background chatter or music, that's what you're hearing. And it's just kind of a fun vibe, don't you think?
Yeah, the coffee shop
We're at
ambiance.
the coffee shop. Yes, I have my coffee. Katy has her tea. How is the tea, Katy?
It's great. It's good.
You may have already noticed that Katy has a great Britain accent. She's from London. So welcome over to this side of the pond.
Thank you. It's great. Yeah. Everyone's so welcoming.
How many times have you been to the U.S.?
A couple times before.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, Katy is a senior editor at the Good Book Company. She's an award-winning author of The Songs of a Warrior and The Promise of the Light. And we're going to talk about her newest book here today. You do youth work, right, at your church?
That's right. Yeah. So I volunteer with the 11 to 14s mainly.
Okay, wonderful.
Occasionally the younger ones as well.
Wow, that's so great. I love that. I just had a new teen book release this year, Comparison Girl for Teens, and it's also in Spanish. Let's see if I can say it. No te compares para chicas.
Oh, very good. Very good.
I have a heart for these, young women who fall into the same traps that older women do, and yet, man, the enemy can be so deceitful in these young ages. So to give us just a finger on the pulse of youth in London.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know how similar or different it is to America, really. We have a lot of unchurched kids at our youth group.
Okay.
A real range of kind of thoughts about God, like levels of knowledge about Him. I think there's a lot of phones. There's a lot of social media. There's a lot of anxiety about how people present themselves. But as I guess there is everywhere in the world where there are those things.
Yes.
But yeah, I think we find so where we are, it's pretty, it's not a super affluent place.
Okay.
And so actually there's not loads for them to do.
Okay.
And so these kids come, just out of nowhere, they arrive at our youth group and they invite their friends even when they're not Christians. And they just seem to love it.
That's awesome.
And I think it's partly just because it gets them out of the house to see their friends.
Sure, yeah.
They're kind of happy to engage and happy to listen and happy to discuss. I think it definitely feels like even amongst unchurched kids, maybe there's an openness and an interest in spiritual things bubbling up a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, the statistics support coming to Christ in that window. You're right in that window where they're exploring. And so what an exciting place, what an exciting time.
Yeah, and I guess at that age, you kind of, you haven't really got settled convictions about things yet.
Totally.
And you're kind of, I think they're so used to you're so used to going to school or whatever and being in a situation where grown-ups are telling you stuff and grown-ups are telling you what to do. And you kind of accept that. That's kind of how your life works.
Right.
And so you're kind of, there's even an openness to just sitting in a room listening to adults talking to you about stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And not necessarily that you're going to take everything they say and agree with it, but
that's just
it's just
customary.
It's just customary. Exactly.
Right.
And I think that gives us such an opportunity to say, well, this is the Christian viewpoint.
Sure, right.
Maybe you never thought about this before.
Yeah.
But there's goodness here.
Yes.
And to try and just entrance them with the goodness of the gospel.
Oh, I love that. Yes, entrance them. Exactly right. You're capitalizing on a distinct moment in their development. And so, did your desire to write for this age group grow out of your youth ministry experience?
Yeah, I think so. And I guess as well, thinking of my own life, what are the things that pop into my head as I try and make sense of my life? it's C.S. Lewis, it's, you know, it's or other things, you know, even secular stories.
Yes.
But it's things really that I read when I was a teen or younger. Just little stories or little sayings or things. But those, I think when you're that age, if you like reading, those stories and those, it kind of becomes how you think about life.
It's so true. I mean, I, as a young person, spent whole weekends reading.
Yeah.
I loved reading, and I had time to do it then.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I don't anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd love to take time on fiction, but I don't anymore because my life is so full.
Yeah. Whereas when you're 12, you just lie down on your couch and you just read for the whole afternoon.
That's right. And so, you know,
I think that embeds it in you in a different way. And so I think, I just think there's such an opportunity to travel with kids, not only on their first reading of something, but actually, hopefully, for the next 20 years.
Yes, it gets ingrained. It gets instilled in them. And so if you are listening and you are a grandma or an auntie or a mom and you have a young, 8 years old or up girl in your life, maybe boys too. We're going to talk about Katy's new book on the story of Ruth. It's called The Outsider, Ruth, a retelling. And this is your third young adult, or I'm sorry, not young adult, adolescent? Or
I don't know.
How do we put that?
We can call it young adult.
Youth, okay.
Yeah, youth. I think it's interesting, actually. I think I kind of picture it as like 8 to 12, but actually I think teens have really enjoyed them, and even adults have really enjoyed them.
Well,
as well.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. You're a great storyteller.
Thanks.
Yes, and this is a story in the Bible, and I just think it's so interesting. I feel like we miss this fact that the Bible is an overarching narrative, built, sustained by different narratives, and stories are what capture our hearts. We don't just look at a story as an outsider. We enter in.
Exactly.
It's like the difference between reading a newspaper article and watching the same story played out in the theater. In the theater, you cry. You wake up the next morning thinking about the story. The newspaper article, you skim. So that's how God is. He's a storyteller, and he wants to capture our hearts. And so he wants us to enter into this story and to see ourselves in the story. And I think it's by design because he created us. There's a reason that when we listen to a sermon, we're most moved by the stories. We most find ourselves thinking about the stories, remembering, contemplating the stories. So he's a storytelling God. Yeah. And we are story-made creatures. And so I love the fact that you are using story to talk to young people about truth. So this is a story about a young woman, who is, I think every time we enter the Bible, it's a cross-cultural experience. You're living in London. I'm living in the U.S. Neither of us are Middle Eastern people.
It's true.
And so Ruth in particular, I think, is a cross-cultural book. Yes?
Yes, for sure. And I think that's one reason why writing a retelling of it that's kind of fiction in style, but really faithful to the text, I think really works because what started me off on writing these retellings was the thought that, if you ask a 9-year-old kid about the book series that they're really into, they can tell you like the whole history of that land. Yes. They can tell you how how it all works. They can tell you like all this lore kind of comes out of them. Yeah. And I kind of thought, well, in a way that like, why can't we do that with the Bible, with the Old Testament?
We sure can.
And so trying to like learn from the techniques of fiction writing to kind of weave in like, I want you to be immersed in this culture and I want you to understand it, but I'm not you don't feel like you're learning stuff. You just feel like you're enjoying a story. And so I spent a long time kind of, trying to figure out there's all these laws and, all of this agriculture, that I think sometimes as adults, we don't even engage with that stuff when we read the book of Ruth because, we love the characters and the characters come through so strongly. Sure. But it's harder sometimes to kind of engage with that background, as you say, the cross-cultural stuff. Yeah,
this is an agricultural society built around like the seasons, and the book opens with it's the barley harvest, and that all like triggers a lot of thoughts and ideas about what is happening at this moment for Ruth, and also the fact that she's a Moabite. Yes, there's history in that. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, well, I guess, the Moabites and the Israelites were not friends.
Right. They're enemies.
And so
yeah.
they are enemies.
It'd be like saying Boaz the Israeli meets Ruth the Palestinian.
It's
there's
true,
immediately
yeah.
when you hear that, you're like, oh, there is
Hackles
tension
rise.
here. Yes,
Hackles
exactly.
rise. Yeah. And I think it's striking how often she's called the Moabite
It is all
in the
throughout.
story.
Yeah, we're meant to notice that.
We are really meant to notice that.
Yeah.
And she should not be getting involved with the Israelite people.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think as well, like, one of the things that I really enjoyed thinking about was how, how unique the Israelite religion was, in that culture, in that world that they lived in. They would have been obviously idol worshipping multiple gods, worshipping in a completely different way. And what could it have been like for someone who had that expectation about the world?
Right.
That maybe you pray to the gods for a good harvest, and you've got to give them gifts,
Yes. Yeah.
so that they look kindly on you.
Yeah, it's very obscene sorts of gifts.
Yes.
It's like this. The idol worship is not just. I mean, it's R-rated. It
really is
horrific, right?
Yeah. And what would it be like for someone from that culture to encounter the God of the Bible, the God of Israel?
Right. Yeah. And Ruth, in large part, is encountering God for the first time, because I don't know what your thoughts are on this. I've read different perspectives, but I tend to think that when Naomi and her family left to go to Moab, this was a misstep. This was like a lapse in faith. They weren't. It wasn't like everybody left. The famine wasn't like they didn't all abandon. And God's promises are built around this land and this people.
Yes.
And so to depart both, to leave the land, to leave the people, and to marry their enemies. Like this is a lapse in faith. And so I don't know how much. I don't know how much Ruth learned from Naomi, her mother-in-law, but she's learning more about God as she re-enters Bethlehem.
Yes.
And lives among these people.
Yes, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, we just don't know.
We're not told.
We don't know what Naomi's exact faith was like. I really strikes me how she, towards the beginning of the story, she's so bitter towards God.
Yeah.
But she believes in him.
Yeah.
But for her, he's this, he's
taken.
He's
taken everything.
Just taken, exactly. He's just taken everything away from her.
She believes, it's sort of like those people that you meet who they believe in God, but they're angry because God he's not done anything that they asked. He's not provided for them. He hasn't.
Yeah.
And you look around and you're like, but wait, you're missing this, you're missing that. I mean, I have a couple of those people in my life, and they just think God is after them and he hasn't. And I'm like, but look at where you live. Look at your family. Look at all these gifts that God has given you. You're missing. You're not seeing it. And so, I see that with Naomi, and we see a progression in her.
Yes. Yeah, and I wonder if, in some ways you might want to say to Naomi, like, your view of God is a little bit like those idol worshipping cultures.
You've been influenced.
Where you are thinking about what can I get from God, and like how can I earn his favor?
Yes.
And like what have I done to lose his favor?
Yes. Yeah.
And I feel like maybe both Ruth and Naomi, I like to imagine, kind of have this journey of realizing that God is kind.
Yes.
And it's not about earning his favor. It's not about how many good things you've ticked off your list.
It's so true. I wrote a Bible study on the life of Abram and Sarai, which is where this people group, the Israelites, this is where they came from. And the story opens with God making promises to them, not saying, "Here, will you do this for me?" He says, "I will. It opens with him saying, "Here's what I'm going to do with you." And it's a covenant. And the covenant is based not on, they would have these covenant cutting ceremonies. I'm sorry, I'm getting into the weeds here, but and endure with me. So they would have these ceremonies where they cut animals in two, and the two parties would walk through the pieces to say, like, I'm making this deal with you, and may it be to me like these dead animals if I don't keep my promises to you.
Yeah.
But in this instance, Abram was asleep. He's asleep, and God alone walks through the pieces. And so he's saying, I've made the promises, and I will keep the promises. And yes, I want you to respond to the promises. Your whole the whole thing is built on responding to God as a promise-making and promise-keeping God. And yet, here we have a family that they haven't really been faithful to God. They've kind of departed, and yet that does not dissuade God from keeping his promises to them. And so let's talk though about Ruth, because we're seeing in this story, we're seeing a change in her, and all good stories have character development, right? We have a character who desperately wants something. And in this story, we have a girl who wants to fit. She wants to belong. She's an outsider. I mean, I think that's the cultural, this is a cultural story where we need to recognize she is an outsider by everyone's standards. She is not just welcomed in. She does not belong.
Yeah.
And of course she wants to fit. Of course she wants to belong. And the way to belong as a woman in this culture is to have children. And by the end of the story, she does. She belongs. She has a child, and this child is part of those bigger promises we just talked about. This child is going to lead to the lineage of Christ. And so she has a huge role. She's mentioned in Matthew, the opening verses in Matthew, the lineage of Jesus.
Yes.
Includes several outsiders, including Ruth.
Yeah, and I just love that. It's just such a great example again of the Lord's kindness. She's not just. It's not just like, okay, Ruth, you can kind of come in. We'll
endure you.
We'll endure you. Exactly. You can come round on Wednesdays, but don't invade the rest of my life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no. She's fully integrated.
She is at the center. She is at the heart of God's people, of this story of redemption.
Which is such a beautiful picture for all, because I'm not Jewish. You're not Jewish.
Yeah.
So from the beginning, I think that's why those women are listed in Matthew's genealogy. It's like from the beginning. We have Rahab. We have who's the other one? Tamar.
Yes.
No. Women with ill repute, but we have outsiders being welcomed in, not just, like you said, to be endured in their own little separate quarters. No, they are an integral part. They are welcomed in and play a huge role, and we do too, which is so exciting.
And that was kind of what I wanted to get across with this book.
Well, that's your title.
Yeah,
exactly. The outsider.
And and even just obviously, like there's the kind of macro level of what we know about the inclusion of the Gentiles, and the being in Christ allows us to be part of God's people.
Right.
But also just on a micro level of, when we feel like outsiders, I've had the experience of, joining a new church, moving to a new place, and just feeling like I don't know who my people are. I'm trying to make friends, but I feel lonely. And then just people opening their homes to me and welcoming me in, and just wanting me to be there, even though I couldn't offer anything.
Right. And I'm thinking of your teens that you serve at your church who aren't church. Maybe they do the wrong thing. I think we're going to see some of that in the story we're going to look at here in a second.
Yeah.
It's like people are doing it's like, this is not right. This is very improper. It's like culturally unacceptable. A lot of missteps here. And yet, man, there's redemption at the end of it. And that's our God. And that's what we should be as the people of God, welcoming outsiders in and being gracious toward one another. So let's look at this text. I think this is the height of the text. We're jumping into the middle of the story. I love that you chose this little section. We're in Ruth chapter 3. And so just to kind of catch you up to the story, it's like we've talked about Naomi has lost her husband, lost her sons, and one of her daughter-in-laws has stayed back in Moab, and Ruth has re-entered Bethlehem. So it's just a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, and they've come at the barley harvest. And so at this point in the story, it's like this is the threshing. This is like the height of the, everything is built on this agricultural timeline. And so this story comes, Boaz is harvesting the barley, right? The barley?
It would have been barley and wheat,
and wheat. Okay. And so he is like sleeping with his buddies. I guess they would just sleep by the piles of grain. It was maybe their custom. They would enjoy food and drink. And so he's probably intoxicated. And, and so Naomi comes up with this plan, like, let's get you all prettied up, take a shower, put some perfume on. And I love the way you described it, wear your best clothing.
Yeah.
Let's brush out your hair
Yeah.
and let's get you ready and let's sneak you in
in
the middle of the night.
Sounds like a great plan.
Exactly. Like, I would
Nothing could possibly go wrong.
Exactly. Okay. So would you read, let's see, verses 7 through 8? Let's just start with those.
Yes. When Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. In the middle of the night, something startled the man. He turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet.
What would change in your life if you lived like it's true that God is the one who's in control, not you? In a 9-week study called Control Girl, Lessons on Surrendering Your Burden of Control from 7 Women in the Bible, we'll examine the Old Testament stories of Eve, Sarah, Hagar, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, and Miriam. And here's what I think you'll notice. All of these women were trying to white-knuckle their way to a happy ending just like we do. But as you examine their stories, here's what I think will bring you so much peace and perspective and security in your own life. You're going to see in 100 different ways that in their stories and in yours, God already is in control, which means that you don't have to be. If you're interested in using this study for your small group or your women's Bible study or just individually, I'd love for you to check out the Leader's Guide, free bonuses, and other things we have for you at controlgirl.com. I love that storytelling language. Behold, there's a woman.
There's a woman. Yeah.
So,
what?
Well, what is surprising here, Katy?
I mean, it's pretty surprising that she does this, I think. It's interesting to me how the narrator earlier on in the story has made it really clear that Ruth is not safe.
Right.
It's mentioned, so Boaz says, I've told the young man not to touch you.
Yeah, safety is a concern. Yeah.
And Naomi says to Ruth, earlier on, she says, like, stay with Boaz's harvesters because somewhere else you might get hurt.
Right.
You might
so
get harmed.
They're both concerned for her safety.
Everyone's concerned for Ruth's safety. She's a young woman. She's on her own. Everybody knows that she's not got a man who's, there's no one's going to kind of come and beat you up if you touch her. Do you know what I mean?
That's right. And this is a shame on our culture. So
yes.
that is how it worked is, you were protected by your family, by those looking out for you. Yeah. And everybody knew, she belongs to that family.
Exactly.
And if I hurt her,
I'm hurting that whole family.
I'm hurting the whole family.
Yeah.
And so she doesn't have that. She doesn't have that protection. And so everybody's a little bit more concerned for her. And it also, don't get this idea that this is some idyllic society where no crime occurs, right? I think maybe that's what we might assume. Well, these are all godly men. Of course, nothing would happen to her.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Maybe not true. Yeah. And so I think it's amazing that she takes this step of going to this, I think, dangerous place,
right,
where she's not protected. People are possibly drunk. It's the middle of the night. And she goes and lies down next to Boaz, just like that.
Yeah. Like that is, you don't have to be a Bible scholar to realize like that's weird.
It's super weird.
And don't over spiritualize the Bible and think, they knew something we didn't know. No, we all look at this and say, this is not normal. Like a young woman sneaking out in the middle of the night to lay at the feet of a man. I mean, just think how you would feel if someone crept into you and I are both staying in a hotel. How would we feel if someone came into the room in the night and we found out that they were there? Like, okay, immediately.
Not okay.
Especially if it was someone from the opposite gender.
Yes.
Right? And this is, we just know, we intuitively know this is not right. And I think it's also surprising that Naomi suggests this. Like,
yeah.
What mother-in-law? Why is she suggesting it? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, some people have said they think that Naomi's plan is that Ruth and Boaz will sleep together, and she's kind of ensnaring Boaz, basically.
I wondered that,
Yeah.
you know, like as I read it, it's almost like she sees providence unfolding. We're going to talk in a moment about this being a kinsman redeemer. She's put the pieces together, and in a sense, she's matchmaking, and yet. Katy, my first book was called Control Girl, Lessons on Surrendering Your Burden of Control from 7 women in the Bible. And I made the case that all women struggle with control because we are all daughters of Eve. And God said in Genesis 3:16, your desire will be for your husband. And that desire, it's not a sexual desire, it's a desire to overtake, you know, because we see the parallel language in Genesis 4 where God says, sin is crouching at the door. Its desires for you. It's like this desire to overtake you, to take control. And this is the result of Eve first taking the control. You know, she wasn't just taking fruit, she was taking control. She was taking the steering wheel for the family. She wasn't just rejecting God's rule, she was rejecting his rule over her. And so as a result, here are the consequences. God's giving, you know, you want to take control, I'm going to allow you to become a controlling woman. And so I think there are seeds of this in all of us, and it plays out in different ways, but particularly in relationship. I think we women, I feel it in my heart. I want to control everything for my children. You know, I am very invested in who they date and who they marry, like very much so.
Yeah.
And I even have that desire to do this matchmaking and to, you know, I see where this is all headed, and I feel like it's up to me. And that I just have to look for that in my heart and know that it's there. Like, this is my bent in sin. I have a desire I believe in God's providence, but I have this desire to take it into my own hands. And so I see this in Naomi. I just think she's trying to matchmake.
She's scheming.
And she's scheming.
Yeah.
And this is not, I mean, she's putting Ruth at risk, you know, sending her into the dark, into the night, not only risking her safety, but risking her reputation, risking Boaz's reputation. I mean, if she truly is trying to allure him, I mean, he's drunk, you know, entice him to sleep with her, well, then everybody's reputation's at risk. This is rash. This is not wise. And it's very surprising.
It's extremely surprising.
Yeah. So in this podcast, you know, we just look at what's the surprise? You know, how's this a story? How about this? Is Boaz surprised?
He seems pretty surprised, doesn't he? I love the language, like, and there was a woman. You know?
Behold, there was a woman.
He's not expecting to see her.
Or any woman. Like,
Or
what is a
any
woman
woman.
doing here?
No.
I had a situation. We were in a class where we're discussing the Bible, and my husband was asking for prayer because he was taking our daughter to a father-daughter retreat, and he was just making a joke, but he's like, Shannon was really concerned, wanting to know, like, where are the girls going to sleep? Like, who's going to, you know, she's going there with her dad. And I just said, without thinking, you know, look, I don't want my daughter sleeping with a bunch of men.
Oh dear.
And they all laughed. Like, yes, I think most people would have that concern, you know. Like, so it was just this funny moment. But that's, I mean, you know, Boaz is surprised here. It's just, you don't want a woman to be in this situation, you know. So he's surprised. We're surprised. Everything about this is surprising. And yet the response is also surprising. So would you continue on, read verse 9 through 13 for us there?
So Boaz is speaking to begin with. Who are you, he asked. I am your servant Ruth, she said. Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family. The Lord bless you, my daughter, he replied. This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. All the people of my town know that you are a woman of noble character. Although it is true that I am a guardian redeemer of our family, there is another who is more closely related than I. Stay here for the night, and in the morning, if he wants to do his duty as your guardian redeemer, good, let him redeem you. But if he is not willing, as surely as the Lord lives, I will do it. Lie here until morning.
First, I have to say, Katy, I could listen to you read the Bible all day long. I just love your beautiful
I've got a Hermione
British
Granger voice, I think.
Oh, no, I love it. I love it. It's so great. Okay. Well, what is surprising here in his response to her?
I just love that you get the sense of someone who is not out for what he can get.
Yes.
Do you know?
Yeah.
I think we know that Boaz is this upstanding, moral, worthy, godly man.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think in a way it's not surprising that he doesn't take advantage of her.
Yeah,
that's kind of what we expect from the way the story has gone so far.
Yeah, it's consistent with his character.
Yeah.
He's been a noble. He's watched out for her.
Yeah. But in a way, I guess the surprise is that he doesn't say, sure, let's get married. In a way he does, but he says, oh, there's this other guy who actually has a greater right than I do to get involved.
It's almost, in a sense, he's deferring to providence.
Yes.
Deferring to God's sovereignty.
Yes. I feel like he's just really wants to do the right thing. He wants to do things properly. He wants to do things righteously. And he's not thinking, I think sometimes we tell this story as like this romantic love story. And I totally get why we want to do that. But I actually think it sells it short in a way, because Boaz isn't this guy who is like, oh, I'm attracted to you, and so let's get married. They're not burning for each other, or maybe they were, but that's not what the text emphasizes.
That's not. No. Yeah.
Instead, he's measured.
Yes.
He says, he makes this promise: as surely as the Lord lives, I will redeem you. This is a man who is completely reliable, completely trustworthy, but he's not. There's no sense in which he's out to kind of fulfill himself or make his life better. He's not like, oh great, this lovely young woman wants to be my wife. Fantastic.
No. He's not opportunistic, right?
Exactly. And I just think that's so beautiful, and particularly in this context where we've seen this danger, this lack of safety. That Boaz he's not only generous, he's also, he follows through on his generosity.
Yes.
He's not like, it feels earlier in the story like he's quite an extravagant giver, and even here, like just after this passage, he kind of gives her like an enormous amount of grain.
Right, yeah.
And I feel like sometimes people who are very generous like that, they're quite impulsive, and they're quite. It's like it's a wonderful trait, but it sometimes goes with.
It does.
The reason they're like that is because they're maybe a little bit changeable, or
Sure, there's an emotional response.
Whereas with Boaz, maybe he is impulsive, maybe but he follows through on that. He's a steady giver,
steady, measured, wise, considerate, kind, all of these beautiful characteristics. And storytellers contrast characters. We've just been told the story in a particular way, and so we see this contrast. And these are probably, I don't know how old Boaz is, but he and Naomi are probably more similar in age, and so Ruth is the younger. And so we have this contrast between Naomi, who is rash and
she's super emotional. I feel like she makes these big dramatic speeches.
She does. And
I love her.
Bitter than call me Mara.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so I think there's this contrast, and we're meant to see that. Well, we've been talking with Katy Morgan about her best-selling book, The Outsider, Ruth, a Retelling. It's a biblical fiction chapter book for middle school kids, ages 8 through 13. So if you've got one of those running around your house, or a granddaughter, a grandson, I would love for you to check out this book. Especially over break, it's a great time to be reading in between the school sessions and the holidays. So check out that book, The Outsider. And you're going to want to join me next time, because we're going to finish this conversation about Ruth and Boaz and this story of redemption for the outsider. Can I just remind you that these stories in the Bible are true stories? They're absolutely true. God could have given us a list of facts about himself, but instead he gave us a book filled with stories. These stories help us to know God, and collectively they help us to understand this overarching story that we are all part of. So I hope this episode will inspire you to study this story for yourself straight from the Bible. To help, I've put together my Live Like It's True workbook. It includes some of my favorite tools for studying the narrative sections of our Bible. Also, we're getting quite a collection of episodes, and we've done some work on the website making it possible for you to search for a particular story of the Bible by section and book of the Bible. Come check that out along with my other books and resources at shannonpopkin.com. Live Like It's True is part of the Resound Media Network. For more gospel-centered resources, go to resoundmedia.cc. We've got that link for you, along with any other links to resources we've mentioned in the show notes. All right, friend, are you ready? Now it's time to go live like it's true.